Awesome. And welcome to another episode of How to Make It in Toronto. We're joined by Steven Puri, a visionary entrepreneur, film studio executive turned tech founder, and the mind behind the Sukha company. From shaping stories in Hollywood to helping remote teams find focus with this app at the Sukha Co. Steven shares powerful insights on creativity, productivity, and building with purpose in the digital age. So let's dive into his journey. Welcome, Steven.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Where do you want to dive in?
Okay, well, let's start with number one. How do you define success?
Success is, for me, the feeling of waking up before my alarm in the morning. When my life is on the right track, I'm doing something meaningful, I have the right people in it, I just notice that it is I thought I needed to set this alarm for 6:30, whatever, and at 6 o'clock, I'm excited to get up. And the times when it is not right, like things need to be adjusted, it's always that, hit the snooze.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I think it's when you're enjoying what you do enough that you can get up, especially naturally, getting that chance to get going. That definitely is success. So could you tell us a bit about your background? I know, obviously, you're now founder and CEO of the Sukha company, but you also worked as a film exec. Could you walk us through your career and how you got there?
I'm happy to do that. I will try and be as concise as possible so it's not boring in any way. Yeah. I will tell everyone listening this. I don't know anyone else that has quite my weird bifurcation in their career between these two fields. And I would like to tell you it was by design. A lot of it was my life. Lucky things have happened. And then when they happen, they fall in my lap. I try and make the most out of them by working hard, right? So here's the deal. Really young, both my parents are at IBM. My mom's a software engineer writing code. My dad is a hardware engineer designing logic chips, CPUs essentially, right? So I learned how to code as a kid. I was a little code monkey, right? It was fun. And I was hacking and trying to, hack video games and stuff like that. Yeah. So I ended up going to USC. I grew up in Northern Virginia, going to USC in LA. And while I'm there, it has admittedly a fantastic cinema TV school. So a lot of my friends in the dorm, are aspiring Spielbergs and Lucases and Ron Howards and stuff that, they all went to school there. So I was there and had these skills in engineering, and I had a bunch of friends that we'd hang out and talk about films. And it happened to be right when film went digital. Lucky weird thing drops my lap, okay? So I'm there and I can speak engineering because I was a software engineer at IBM. I got a job. I was a Watson scholar, so I could make side hustle money doing, work at IBM, which I did during college. And then I also could speak to a director because a lot of my friends were young aspiring directors who wanted to talk creative. There were not a lot of people in that intersection, that Venn diagram, and my career took off. I ended up producing visual effects for films, like digital effects for films, and produced the digital effects for Independence Day. We won the Academy Award for the visual effects. Super cool. Rising tide lifts all boats. The director and producer of the movie and I got along really well, and we set up a company together. So I'm like 25, 26 years old, running this company, and we raised like $15 million of venture for that. It was super cool. It was a lot of work. I did that through my 20s, and then we had an offer from Das Werk, this German like Liberty Media conglomerate, and cashed out. And I was like, oh, this is so easy, Carl. You create a company, you do a lot of work, you hire 80 people, and someone buys it. So, right? Later we'll realize it's not that easy. So that was an interesting sort of interlude of like coming to LA, falling sort of ass backwards into film and going like, oh, wow, this is cool. And worked really hard, built a company, sold it, right? So then I was like, what do I want to do next? What's the next era? And I'd met a lot of film people. I thought, seems really fun to produce movies or maybe be like a studio chairman or something. Set out on that path, worked really hard, made a lot of friends doing that. And as you know, ended up a executive vice president, DreamWorks for Kurtzman Orsi, ended up vice president at 20th Century Fox, and worked on a lot of, like I ran the Die Hard franchise at Fox, the Wolverine franchise, the movie based on 24, like worked on Transformers, Star Trek, like a ton of fun stuff in some capacity. And that was really interesting and fun for a while. And then I have to admit, I hit a point where And it was Die Hard 5 that really broke me, right? Where I was like, I had a lot of movies I was trying to make at Fox. My boss was like the chairman of the Fox Filmed Entertainment Group. He was only really interested in making Die Hard. All the movies I was working on, all these great pieces of talent, really focused on how's Die Hard. And the script was terrible. And when you work on a film like that, it's very interesting the way that comes about, because you have a release date often before you've started. It's like, this will be out Christmas 2014 or something, right? And you have a shooting schedule that's dictated often by the star, where it's like, hey man, I have 2 months in between these two other movies. I can shoot it right now, April and May, right? So we had locked in a shooting schedule, a release date. We had a terrible script, and it was the only movie my boss wanted to make. And we had this one very honest conversation where I told him, like, I feel like I'm failing you. Like, you want to make this movie. I'm telling you, it's one of the worst on my slate, and you just want to make this. And he's like, listen, it'll make money. As long as you make it for, under this number, we know any poster with the words Die Hard on it will make that amount of money. So just do that and just get it done. It's a piece of work, right? So it's not show art, it's show business. Right?
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, I'm going to wake up, be 40, 50 years old, be like, telling my kids, well, daddy's got to go make Die Hard 13 now because he's got to pay for your college, whatever. And I was like, okay, I don't think this is really where my life wants to go. At that point, as you know now, almost all major studio movies are simply IP that they bought. It's like, hey man, we're making Kleenex the movie to follow Minecraft the movie, to follow Barbie the movie. You know what I mean? You're just like, ah. So I was like, what do I want to do? Well, next big turn in my life. This brings us to today. I was like, what I do know how to do is I was an engineer. I don't know the modern languages. Like, I can't write React, and I don't know Tailwind. I don't know the syntax of these languages, but I do understand how to run a tech company. I understand the theory of architecture. Maybe I can find some problems that I find interesting and address them and build little companies. So I had 2 companies that I built, raised approximately 3 million for each. Both failed. Just like painful. God, we tried hard. We tried so hard. And it was in the aftermath of those that I looked at them, because when I fail, I try to write down, what did I learn? Right? While it's fresh, while the wounds are still bleeding, when you really remember, what did I do wrong? It's supposed to take a year later, you're like, man, it was hard, but life goes on. You're in that moment of like, I'm terrible. I'm an idiot. I failed. And write down, what would I do differently? And that is one of my big pieces of advice is, in the moment of, okay, I just had some sort of failure, and I'm not afraid to call it failure, right? People always want to sugarcoat things. Success and learning opportunities. It is learning opportunity, but you can just call it. You go, hey man, I tried to do this. I failed. Everybody fails. It is simply a question of, did you learn and try again? That's it. There's no shame around it. Everybody who's built $1 billion company, won an Olympic gold medal, painted the thing that becomes the massive artwork of centuries. They all failed, but they learned. They did it again, right? Yeah. So I learned, and how I got, how you and I were talking is, I realized there were a lot of lessons from the film days about how to work remotely, work hybrid, also work together, that were very popular in film for 100 years because film's always done it that way. Whereas with some other, industries, it's kind of a new thing. Like with the pandemic, it was like, oh goodness, we're going to work remote. How is that going to work? What's this Zoom thing, So that's a lot of what I do now is I teach, I share knowledge about, here's some great techniques to help you lead teams or be an individual contributor when you're working remotely or hybrid, and how to focus, how to get into a flow state, how to lead a happier life where you're super productive, but you're managing your productivity. That's what I do. There's a story. I know, maybe, 5 minutes. I'm trying to knock it down.
No, I mean, it's such a wonderful story and a great career you've had, right? And all these different
super lucky
opportunities that you've been a part of. But I'm going to go back to when you built your first CGI company, and I work in the tech industry, and something I know is some people who are tech focused like you are, being an engineer, aren't necessarily I would say the best either communicators or aren't
True.
really as out there in terms of wanting to lead in some cases. You know, an engineer's lead, but like I may say is maybe not be as involved on the business aspect. You know what I mean? Or
Yes.
as creative as you've been. So when you got started, you know, what skills helped you, number one, be able to communicate a vision, to build a company, and then also how were you able to translate, you know, like your technical skills into, you know, building CGI and working with producers and directors?
Okay. So I'll tell you this, when I was young and like my college into my 20s, I was super arrogant and ignorant, which are a great combination. Let me tell you that. Where you do think you're invincible. You do think you're smarter than everyone. You do think you're omnipotent, right? And there's a value to that in moderation, and that you have to have a positive outlook of like the thing is achievable. But I definitely worked hard, had a lot of successes very quickly, where it's like, oh, this is easy and I'm smarter than everyone else. No, Steven, you're not. You're just kind of lucky and you work a lot, right? So when you ask me about leading teams and being an engineer and things like that, there are a couple things that I've learned myself, and there's some things that I've observed, and let me share that with you. One of the things that I've seen that does not work, especially with engineers and engineering management and leadership, is sometimes by virtue of an engineer being very good, they get promoted. So it's not just you become a senior engineer, but it's like, you should oversee these 10 engineers. Here, all these devs are yours now, right? Sometimes that's a horrible idea, because you actually have to not want to be a great engineer building stuff anymore. You have to want to be a manager of people with administrative duties and direct reports, things like that. And sometimes it seems like either the IC wants that because they're like, it's the next evolution of my career. I want the title and I want the thing. And they get there and they're like, this is an awful job. I used to build amazing things people would ooh and ah over and delight. And now I'm basically doing 10 quarterly reviews of all my direct, right? So you have to really know what you want if you are a great engineer and you want to graduate into management. And as you are a leader, you have to understand that you're going to make that segue from I am doing work to becoming a middle manager in essence, you know, unless you're going to go start your own company and be the CEO and, you know, you start out with yourself as the CEO and also the guy who takes the trash out. I write the code, I do the Figma, and I take the trash out. And I go to investor meetings where I try to get millions of dollars after I take the trash out. So you have to want it, and you have to understand that if you promote someone into that they have to understand what the compromise is, which is you can go from being a great engineer to a leader, but you are going to change what you do.
What do you think are some of the skills that helped you in terms of, you know, as an entrepreneur, taking that business to being sold, to be sold successfully? Like, what were the top 3 entrepreneur skills that you built along the way, that you learned that helped you be successful and be able to grow your business?
2. I'm going to give you 2 skills, very specific, and I'm going to tell you how they helped me succeed, and they also, when I did not follow them, help me fail, right? Which is the more painful part of this, right? So one is listen, know your customer. Like, listen, am I solving a problem? How painful is your foot, right? I'm going to make a shoe that makes your feet feel great at night, right? Not, I don't know, I have a theory that like nice shoes are cool, so let's make some nice shoes, right? No, it's like, dude, people's feet hurt. This is why they hurt. This is how badly they hurt. This is how often they hurt. This is how much money they will spend to stop them from hurting. Let's go make shoes that are exactly tailored to them. Let's give them early versions of them, you know, like alpha shoe. And let's hear what they say and listen for the hate. Oh man, your shoelaces suck. Good to know. Rather hear it now in alpha beta than be in production. Be like, why don't people like the shoelaces? You know? So number 1, listen, know your customer. Definitely when I built Centropolis, I was very aware. I'd worked on a bunch of movies. I knew what directors were frustrated about. I knew, you know, sometimes their vision couldn't be translated. How do we show them early on? This is what it will look like. You know, this is what technology could achieve today. You know, here are the elements we need to shoot. Here are the ones we can make in the computer. Like, I was very aware like what that was like to be a studio executive managing the budget, a director managing your vision, a producer managing everybody, like,
Yeah.
so know your customer, listen. And the other one is focus, is that when you need to do something, you have to have either habits, techniques, or tools that allow you to say, I'm going to do this. We're going to do this. Like, so you need to listen, know your customer, and you need to be able to focus. And when I failed, I'll tell you this, both the companies I did later, this past about 10 years ago, I had ideas about what the problems were, but I almost started with a solution and then looked for a problem. Really bad idea, right? And I think that was coming off some of the arrogance of like, oh my God, I'm a senior executive motion picture studio. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm super smart. You're not actually that smart. You may be smart at this, but you're not smart at that. And so that listening thing, that was a great lesson. And that helped me get into what I'm doing now, what I'm offering to people. And the other part about focus, man, there were, in doing really small tech companies, such a different set of challenges than running $100 million, $200 million movies, right? So when you go to a little company where you're running it and there's 6 people, 8 people, whatever, you can't go running after every idea. You have a meeting with some investor advisor and they're like, who really needs this? Left-handed plumbers, and you're like, hey, we should devise a web page, just a landing page for left-handed plumbers and have specific blog articles and do some content marketing around left-handed plumbers. No, man, you got to have focus. You got to go, what we're going to do is we have this vision. We're going to execute it. We're going to come up with the metrics. They'll tell us if we're right. If we're right, we're going to double down. If we're wrong, we're going to experiment. Right. Yeah. And that was very much how I arrived at what I'm doing now today. But those are my 2 thoughts. Yeah. Listen to the customer, focus.
I love that. Yeah. Very important skills to have for sure. What was that experience like? I mean, going from certainly, managing your own company, then moving into like an executive role at a major studio. What was that experience like? And was there any unexpected challenges that you faced and had to overcome, which is because you're obviously operating on a different scale at that point, right? And how did you manage those challenges?
Working for huge companies, there is security. There's no question of like, where's the next job coming from? Where's my paycheck coming from? Things like that. So there are advantages, and definitely in certain periods of your life or with certain personality types, they're fantastic. I personally know that I'm very entrepreneurial and that I like having a lot of agency to say, hey, you know what, let's go attack this. Let's figure out how to solve it. This is a problem worth solving. Let's go do it and see if we're the people to do it, right? So going from Centropolis and then starting to run movies, when you are on the production side, are not dissimilar to very large startups in that you start with an idea, you have to raise a bunch of money, hire a bunch of people, you all work on it, and then you eventually release it to a mass audience and you hope people love it, like the way they did Instagram when it pivoted from bourbon and stuff like that, right? So I will say that transition for me was one where I was like, wow, this is an incredibly secure, stable job. And I just come off a success. You also have the sense you're just a cog in a very large machine. Like my boss, when I was learning, I was the first assistant to the president of Paramount. Great guy, Tom Jacobson. And I remember one day he said to me, he looked in his office, which was this huge cavernous office. People would come in and meet with him, right? And he pointed his chair and he said, one thing you have to remember as you go forward in your film career is he's like, you are not the chair. And I was like, what do you mean exactly? He's like, there are a lot of people who call me now, kiss my ass, because I sit in that president's chair. He's like, that chair was here before I was hired. That chair will be here after I get fired. He's like, all these jobs come and go. He's like, I'm sitting in the chair for X number of years, maybe 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. He's like, every job here, if you confuse yourself with the chair, you'll tie your ego to I'm in that job, as opposed to I'm developing my skills and my relationships to do something great. And it was true. Like when I left Paramount to go get my first executive job, he was in that job maybe 6 months longer. And then there was someone new in that chair. And it's just the way it goes there. So, there's that.
Yeah. Well, I love that. That's a powerful.
He's a smart guy.
You don't be that chair. What were some of the resources you feel that you used at that point in time that helped you be successful? Like, was there any like management software in terms of managing your schedule? Are you one of those people that either utilizes a journal? What helped you in terms of resources in that role and being successful as an executive?
Well, I'll tell you this. I love simplicity.
Mm.
I am not a big person who believes like I should spend 5 hours creating the ultimate Notion page. This is my personal knowledge management system that I groom every morning for 2 hours. I'm just not that guy. Like I really look to conserve energy. I want to be delighted by my tools. I don't want to be in service to them. So I live by my calendar. My wife knows that. My friends know that. Like my calendar is a very simple way for me to manage what needs to happen with my time, which is the most scarce resource, right? And I use Google Tasks because if there's something more complex than that in my life, it requires a separate way of thinking about it, right? If there is, here's what needs to get done, I look at my Google Task, I pick out the things that can get done. And it's honestly, it's how I built the platform I use now. It's because I procrastinate. I know that now. And I get distracted easily. I'm now medically diagnosed with ADHD. And I was like, oh, this explains a lot about why I have challenges getting things done. And I'll tell you, some of the things that bothered the hell out of me, one, getting started in the morning, which I call the cold start problem. I would do that thing of saying like, oh, I should get going at 9 a.m. on this thing. And I would find that I would at 9 a.m. go, I could quickly return my emails. They're coming out. Oh, I could go throw that little laundry in. Oh, I didn't finish the dishes from last night. Let me go do that for 5 minutes and just like it'll get the day going to it, right? Straight up procrastination.
Yeah.
And when I dug down into that, you know what that was? It was just overwhelm. It was sit down, look at the task list from yesterday. Oh, there's 7 things I need to do this morning. There's 17 things I need to do. Oh, I'm never getting it all done. And it overwhelms you to where you don't do any of it. It's paralysis. Like there is research. This sounds so funny. There's research that if you declare 3 things you're going to do, there's a better chance you'll do 3 things than if you look at a list of 7 things with the same 3 things at the top, you'll only do 2 of them because you just feel like that sense of overwhelm and paralysis, right? So sometimes you have to block from your vision everything except I'm going to do these 3 things. That's achievable. The other one is the first thing on your list can't be monumental. You can't be like, write my new app, like write my book. You have to have things where it's like, hey, this is what I could accomplish today. Like because this happens for me, when I built Sukha, one of the things is we have a smart assistant that looks at the 3 things. You're only allowed 3 things you're going to do today. You can have a list of everything, but in this session, you have 3 things. He looks at it, he goes, Carl, write your book might be a little large, a little ambitious for right now. What if we just say, how about 30 minutes to outline your first chapter? And then you can feel like, oh, you know what? I could tell you, actually, when I was talking to my brother yesterday, I did have a great idea for that first chapter. I could bang that out in 30 minutes. And then you can get going and overcomes that cold start problem, which I had in spades, man. And another one is the afternoon slump, where it's like middle of the afternoon, I'm like, I'm worthless. Like it's 3 o'clock, whatever. I don't know. It's a natural thing to start to understand your chronotype. Go, this is the rhythm of my day, And that was something, again, I was building a platform. I was like, we should really have our smart assistants start to notice, like, what are the rhythms where, Carl, in the mornings when you are, coding, whatever, man, from 8 to 11, you are a machine. We should make sure each day we block out that time for you to do coding things. And I'll help you find the tasks in your task list. So when you wake up in the morning, it's like, hey, man, let's bang these things out while your brain is in that mode. In the afternoon, I'll do all the meetings, right? So to have an assistant that sort of like guides you toward that. And it's often called chronotype, like, Chronos time type. And to have a sense of that, I think is really, really helpful. And you develop that as you work, a sense of like, you know what? I am no good at 3, but I do get another little burst of energy after dinner. So maybe an hour or 2 after dinner, I'll do some design work for the next day or something, get that out of my system, and then, go to bed and talk with my husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whatever. So things like that. I think those are some of the things you learn along the way.
No, That's awesome. That's really some really helpful tips to help you along the way for sure. So let me ask you, and I wanted to touch on this, and I know you had mentioned it in terms of earlier, but I wanted to get a deeper breakdown. You've mentioned that you've been in some businesses that have failed, and you go over them or review them so you can learn from that. Could you just elaborate on your process of, when you've worked on a project that may have failed?
Oh yeah.
What do you do next? Like, what's that step-by-step breakdown of, like, this has just happened, let me take a look at what was just happened, and then this is what I'm going to do going forward. Could you elaborate on that?
I will. This is sort of my painful process. I can't recommend this to anyone, but I offer it to everyone because we're all going to have failures, right?
Yeah.
So both of those companies, when I hit the moment of, you know what, I don't think I can actually raise more money for this because I don't know what we would do differently. Like, it'd almost be like raising money to waste it, right? Yeah. So it's like you're $3 million in. Obviously, when you do small companies like that, your investors well. You're not investing in some pension fund out of, Milwaukee. These are people, like, oh, my buddy Carl put in $100,000. Like, he and I talk about, what should we try? And Carl always has ideas about left-handed plumbers. I'm like, what? So you have that sense of, okay, I think we've tried everything I thought would work. I don't have an idea to try. Okay, so I need to wind this down. I need to talk to my investors, make sure they're cool with it, unless they have another idea. Talk to my staff, see if anyone has a reason not to do this, because my instinct is we've tried it all, right? So this happened to me twice. Incredibly, I felt humiliated. I felt shamed. I didn't want to go out and see my friends. Like, you'd go out to restaurants or go to the laundromat, the dry cleaners, go to the gym. You bump into your friend Carl, who's like, "Hey man, how's it going with your company?" "Oh yeah, I think we're gonna close it. It sucks actually." Right? I feel miserable. Right? It's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
So here's what I do. In that moment, and I have a particular chair that just felt good for this, where I sat without dictating this, because I dictate a lot of stuff. I love my phone, I love my laptop, but I did not have anything electronic. I took an old school pad of paper, like a legal pad of paper, and a pencil. Remember pencils? Right? Because I wanted to have to really think about what words I was putting down, not just dictating garbage in my phone that I would throw away. I was like, I want to sit there, I want to write this out. And I thought to myself, what did I do wrong? What did I learn? What would I do differently? And I just sat there while it was fresh and wrote out to myself bullet points of, like, remember this, remember this, remember this, because I'm a big believer we are drawn to mistakes. They're mistakes that we are just naturally, from whatever, well, you would say it's programmed in our DNA, or it is product of our environment and our culture and our upbringing. And if we don't recognize them and go, hey man, you know what? The reason your shots keep going left or because you're throwing the ball this way. If you don't acknowledge that and go, oh, that's why I'm throwing air balls, right? You're going to keep throwing them.
Yeah.
So taking that moment to go, here is the cold, very clinical analysis I would give myself of what's wrong. And then from that, refer back to it. And I have those 2 sheets of paper from both those failures. I wrote out longhand in pencil, and I look at them. I go, am I doing these wrong right now? Is there one of these where I'm not learning from my mistake? Because you don't learn from mistake, that is another mistake you're making. So that is my process. And it's not super fun, because you have to say stuff to yourself, like I did, saying, I didn't listen to users enough. When my early users said this, I was like, oh, well, they don't know enough, or they haven't seen the full product, or they're not exactly the user that I want. And the reality is they were giving me gold. I was just too arrogant to listen.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's super important. And I feel like, as they say, life will keep throwing you the same problems until you learn how to overcome them, right?
Exactly. So, yes.
I find that's so true. And also taking the time to be, especially in failure, to take accountability, but to be ruthlessly honest with yourself and be like, there's a part of this, like, there may be other circumstances that may have taken place, but you also have to be honest enough to say that I had played a part in some of this, and be able to improve and not make those mistakes moving forward.
Yeah, I want to hang a lantern on what you just said, which is what you just expressed, that idea of taking responsibility for yourself. There are people who make it through their entire lives and never do that. And they want to tell you all the time about the blame they place on other people, the checker at the supermarket, their boss, their coworker, the person driving in front of them, that's why they're late, the accident. And when you take charge and you own your life, you take responsibility for your life, amazing how things change, because you go, wow, I do have a ton of control. I can decide how successful I want to be. And there are external factors. Lightning strikes, the tree falls on your house, it sucks. Like, you couldn't control that necessarily, but to a large extent, you reclaim a lot of the path of your life from just being pushed around by the waves and the wind.
Yeah, that's so true. Let's talk about how you transitioned from being a film executive and the Sukha company. Something that I already know that I need to start using because of you talking about not being a morning person and trying to figure out the best time for you to work. That is 100% me.
Yeah.
I only answer or work on emails in the mornings because like the brain's not there yet, and then I take my meetings going into the afternoon because that's when I can do demos or do presentations. Because in the morning I'm just I prefer to just sit in silence and answer emails. Right?
I'll tell you something funny about that from film, which is there's a famous screenwriter, won $2 million a pop, Ron Bass, and he knew himself so well, like what you just said. In the morning, he would get up and he would not talk to his wife or his kids. He said that time from when I think he gets to like 5, 6 a.m. until like 8, 9 a.m., he would not acknowledge them. He said, if I start talking with you, even something as mundane as, oh, you want cereal today? Let me help you with that. Oh, DJ, how are you? He's like, if I do that, I can't hear the voices of my characters in my head. He's like, I have to go and use that time. It's the only time of day when I can write dialogue.
Wow, yeah.
And they understood that. They're like, oh, you know what? Daddy's upstairs. We'll see him at 9, blah, 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 blah. Because he has to do that thing where in his head, he's like, and this is what, and that's how you get characters where Julia Roberts and Brad Pitt and stuff want to play. Robert Redford want to play those roles because he goes, I get me. This is how me works.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, I was going to ask is for you, number one, what was the idea for the company? And how did you get started in building the Sukha company that is now helping people stay focused?
This is going to makes me really happy. I'll say is I'm going to have a son this year and we're going to have a daughter after that, and I very much wanted to do something where I was like, they would be proud of what I do, not, hey, I make sugary cereal for kids, sort of garbage. You know what I mean? There are a lot of ways to make money that you're just like, and I didn't want to be, the guy's like making Die Hard 19 so you guys can go to college, right? We have no story, we have no plot, but it's going to get made. So the thing I learned was in the failures, I recognized, again, talking about focus, I recognized that there was a level of distraction. I was learning about myself. I was learning about my ADHD. And I said, you know what? There are problems that I have that I see with a lot of my teammates that we're all pulling in the same direction. The cold start thing in the morning. I procrastinate before I get going. The afternoon slump. Also the end of day. Oh, you know what? I didn't get it all done, but I will get up early tomorrow morning and get a jump on it and try and finish it. Like, I hated that thing. I'm just like, well, I'm going to go to dinner now and I didn't quite finish, right? Yeah. So I looked at those and I just thought, Carl, there are smart people who have solved this. Like, this is not a new problem, right? This is not cold fusion. This is solvable. So you read the books by the smart people, right? And I'll be super blunt. When you do read them, and I mean everything from Flow, the Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's book on flow states is amazing, to Cal Newport's Deep Work and Clear and Near Aeon, and you do this, and they're all super smart. Many of them talk about the exact same thing, but they use their own lexicon in their own framework to sort of sell you like, here's my $24.95 book, and it's when you actually boil it down, it's like they're agreeing on a lot of it. And I just thought to myself, man, I could use a tool that helps me get going in the morning, helps me limit distractions, helps me, just manage my day and my energy in such a way that I feel happy. And the way I came up with the name of it, which is kind of random, is Laura and I got married. I think you and I had talked before. I told you about, we met in yoga. We have a daily yoga practice. It's an important part of our life, right? So for our honeymoon, we went to Bali, which is, you can go to the yoga barn and you can do yoga and, relax and all that stuff, right? So on our way there, and I needed a name for this company. And there's every awful name out there, Productivity Mate 12 and Focus App 9 and, Flow Brain. And I was like, I was coming up with every bad idea that matches those. So I was talking to Laura and I was like, okay, no one in my company is going to bug me the next 10 days. They know Puri's on honeymoon. Don't ask them to approve the stapler purchase. Don't, right? Just leave them alone for 10 days. So I think it's a gift from the universe because we're going to do yoga, eat, hang out by the pool, talk and be together. And I was like, I bet my unconscious mind, if I feed it with this thing, maybe the universe is saying, here, 10 days, your unconscious mind will bubble something up and be like, you couldn't have come up with this by making lists of names, but it's just going to occur to you. So she's like, okay, cool. What do you mean? Well, I was thinking, what if on the first day I speak to a couple of our power members and just say, hey man, will you talk to me for 10 minutes? I just want to hear what's your favorite part of what we do. And maybe that'll feed my brain. She's like, go for it. I'm going to the pool. You go do that. I'll see you later, right? I'm like, okay. So I do a couple of these. And the last one I did that day was a guy. I spoke to him, as I promised, for 10 minutes. So 8 minutes in, I've asked the dumb questions. What's your favorite feature? Do you love, we have 1,000 hours of flow music. Do you love the smart assistant as we going? Do you love the, right? Go through this stuff. Dumb. I go into the wind up. Carl, it was really nice to spend this time with me. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It really helps me. And he stops me. He goes, Steven, you didn't ask the right question. I was like, okay, dude, what's the right question? He goes, you should have asked me, why do I pay you? And I was like, okay. I probably wouldn't have asked a question that forward, but you're right. That's a really good way to phrase it and very blunt. So why do you pay me? And he said, at 3:00, I can be playing with my kids, or at 6:00, I can say, where the hell did the day go? And the difference is, did I open the Sukha in the morning? I pay you because my kids are 2 and 4. Now they're obviously a little bit older. My kids are 2 and 4, and I want to be in their life. So I pay you because you helped me get to that 3:00. I'm going to go play with them and watch a video with them. And I was like, whoa, okay. Thank you. That's way better than anything I've ever articulated about what we do. So I went to dinner with Laura and I was like, oh my God, I talked to this guy. He was so smart. He said this thing to me. And she's like, yeah, that is really, really good. And so we're brushing our teeth and going to bed. And Laura looks at me. Remember, we have a daily yoga practice. And so Laura says, you know what he said to you in his own way? It's the thing we hear in yoga about, there's certain Sanskrit terms you hear a lot in yoga, prana, like life force and energy and breathing. And, you hear about this. She said, it's kind of Sukha. It's kind of that sense of the happiness you feel when you're self-fulfilled, when you're doing the thing you're meant to do, and it feels good. And it's like when you sit in Sukha pose, Sukhasana, sometimes it's called easy seat or seat of ease because you're just there and there's no effort. It's just flowing. And I was like, you're right. She's like, you should think about that. I was like, you know what? I'm going to call the company the Happiness Company. We're going to call it the Sukha Company. She said, I think that's good because I realized knowing you that all the tools that you build, all these things you offer, the music, the timers, the task list, the code, they're just the path that people walk on. Sukha is the destination. The reason you're doing this is you want people to have that feeling at 3 p.m. of I'm in control of my life. I feel great. I can choose what I want to do. And that's how I connected with this company on a deeper level going, I get it now. This is what I'm meant to do. And we have a community, you can see other people in there. You can talk with them. You can support each other. And it makes it feel really delightful. I want people to have a delightful experience at work and be in control of their life and not feel like, oh man, I'm just ground down to nothing. I felt that way, and I don't want anyone to feel that way.
Yeah, that's that's probably one of the best product recommendations I've
I'm working hard, man. We're working hard. It's a tiny company, but we're trying to do something.
Yeah. And this is just obviously just me trying to help other people truly understand what it is you guys are doing and how you're doing it. But if there's someone out there who has never used an app like this, or maybe skeptical to even be paying for an app like this, what can they expect to get from utilizing this app, and how can it change them or change, whatever it is they may be going through to want to use this along the way.
Let me say two things before I answer your question. One is, it would be a huge win for me if there's anyone out there that even has a question, is struggling with something, and wants to email me and say, hey man, you talked about Cal Newport. Can you give me a recommendation of what to read to learn more about that? Or you talk about Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's book Flow. So my email address, I'm sure you'll put in the show notes, Steven at the Sukha company, the Sukha.co. So number one, it's not just about what I do, but it's about what I have to share. So if someone would like to learn more in some way, I try to get back to every email within 24 hours unless I am sick or traveling, okay? I can't promise you'll be a 19-paragraph email talking about, what I did as a child, but if you're like, dude, I'd love to know more about this thing, what should I read? I would look to hook you up with something that I've read that helped me. So that's number one. Number two, if you decide that you want to use a tool, whether it's a tool that helps build a habit or whether it's a tool that leverages your time to help you get done more, there are a lot of great tools out there. I happen to make one, but I'm telling you, you look around and you'll find the one that fits for you. Like, suppose I have everything covered. I just want to have some music in the background. Dude, you can go, Brain FM's really good. Endel's really good. You can even go to YouTube and stream Lo-Fi Girl for free. You know what I mean? There are a lot of options. So it's not just about what I built. I'm passionate about what I built, but I also want to recognize there are really smart people in this space who are also trying to do great things for other people. And I dig that, I do not dig. And sadly, I've got a bunch of friends who have worked there. People are at a social media company and their entire goal is, how could I steal one more second from a billion people? Because if I get time on site or time in app up, I'm gonna get a huge bonus, a lot of stock options. So I got 1 second from a billion people, basically stealing their lives to show them one more ad. And my boss gave me a lot of money for that. Like, I don't have great respect for that.
Yeah.
No matter how much they hide behind, oh, it's really about connection. It's really about giving people a voice. No, dude, you amplify stuff that you find is engaging, which is usually hatred or anger or getting people screaming at each other, and you want that. And it's like, I can't do that. So those two things aside, let me answer your question. What I do offer is this. We have a website. It's free for 7 days. No funny business, no credit card, no nothing. There's no, I hope you forget to cancel and bill you, right? For 7 days, you can try what we offer for free. If it helps you, you can sign up. It's like 30 cents a day, $10 a month, whatever it is. And it gives you the opportunity every morning to open it. There's a smart assistant that I said, well, I can help you break down your tasks. Tell me what you need to do today. Oh, you need to do this. You need to do that. Let's organize that. How long will it take? Okay, go. Let's get going. Hit play. Hit play. Music starts. Tons of different playlists. You want upbeat, down tempo. You want to listen to rain, surf, forests, streams. You want to listen to binaural beats at 40 hertz, 1,000, 2,000 hours of music in there and soundscapes. So you can do that. There's, productivity meter. So you can kind of see, like, am I getting better day over day? Like, am I being less distracted? There are little nudges like, oh, you opened up YouTube. Do you really need to be in YouTube right now? Oh, no, I don't. Just those little things that help you say, oh, I'm done at 3, not at 6. I'm almost done, right? And then maybe my favorite thing is this. As I built this, I have a very strong belief in community. And we attract a very certain kind of person who's really into being productive, being focused, doing something with their life, and supporting other people. So we built the ability, if you want, you can turn on your camera. A couple times a minute, we take just a still image. So it's not distracting live video. It's just a still image. Anyone else in the world can turn on the camera. And you can sort of like a coffee shop, like look up every half hour and look around and see like who's working. Oh, there's that designer in Finland. She's always here around noon and she's doing her thing. Oh, there's that, funny Japanese guy coding his app. You sort of see it. And it's not super like in your face, but when you want to, it's a lot like a coffee shop where you're working, but you always lean back and be like, okay, who's in here? That's pretty cool. We're all like, doing our little thing.
Yeah.
So built that. There's a group chat where you can talk to each other. And in the early version of this, I wasn't sure if it would work. It was something where I wanted it, but I wasn't sure, like, is this a good idea or a bad idea? Are my instincts wrong? So I did the thing of talk to members. And I talked to this one member and she said this to me. I was like, do you like the coffee shop? Is that distracting? Is that helpful? Does it lift you up? And she said this. how she put it was, I could go down to the Nike store and buy a pair of running shoes, and they will sell me a left shoe and a right shoe. I can put them on my feet. I can go for a run. Totally works.
Mm-hmm.
But there are 100 million people who belong to the Nike Run Club. Because when you run together, you run faster, you run further, you're more accountable.
Mm-hmm.
The days when you're kind of, one of your friends is there being like, come on, man, let's do this. Get out of bed, put your shoes on, I'm gonna meet you downstairs. Let's go, and the days when someone else needs to be held up, you are there for them, and that feels great too. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, deal. We're in. We're doing this. And it's a permanent feature now of Sukha that if you want, you can flip over this card. You can see everyone in the coffee shop. You can talk to people, and it's a really supportive community. So there's that. That is what it is. Super simple. It's a website. There's no crazy business to it.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And the importance of community, especially if you're in a remote job, it's so important to be able
to, right?
Right?
Yeah. It's nice to see other people. We're human.
Yeah, exactly. We are social creatures, right? So I definitely love that. And so finally, I'd want to ask is, what do you think has helped you be so resilient in your journey? You know, you've gone through so many, again, obviously starting off in the CGI, or even starting off as an engineer that goes into the film industry, that goes into being an executive, now building a tech app. You know, what has helped you remain so resilient and just continue to build and grow?
My friends. In those dark nights of the soul where you're like, I am a worthless piece of you-know-what, and just like, oh, this is so embarrassing, is those friends who like call you up, go, hey man, I want to take you to lunch. Hey, you know what? This weekend we're going to go away. I know you're at home and you don't feel great. Let's go do this. So when it's good times, you have lots of friends. You have fair weather friends. You have people who are just like down because you're successful to do whatever you want. But it's in those moments of like, wow, like this hurts. Do you really know who your friends are? And I'll tell you, when I met Laura, it was in the aftermath of my company failing. And I was in New York, and I was so embarrassed. I was there for 2 months before I told anyone in New York that I was even in the city. There was no, hey man, I'm here in New York now. Like, let's go to dinner. I worked, I went to yoga, and I ate, and I slept. And I did that for months without telling anyone I was there, because I was just so depressed and so ashamed, and just I felt humiliated. And I met Laura in yoga. I married the girl on the mat to my left. And she met me at a point in time where there was nothing glamorous about my life. There was no like, oh, he's the cool guy doing this cool thing with the cool stuff. There was just, this is who I am. And she's been with me through everything. And I'll tell you, like, if there's a secret to my life, is I have friends that are amazing. You are the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah, that's so important. The importance of a network and having a good community around you, right? And so for you, at this point in your life, what would you say you're most proud of?
What I'm doing right now, I think, is the thing that will affect the most people in the best way, more than any movie. And I got to work on movies with really smart people, really nice people, some of them. And, some of the movies made a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think Braveheart was a great movie. I think Star Trek 11 was a really cool movie and stuff like that. But I don't know that they're actually going to change the world in a meaningful way. Like, I dig what I do now, and I hope my children feel proud of it. They're like, wow, my dad makes this thing that, like, it's like The Office for people around the world. Come together and do something and make something of their lives. And that's better than making sugary cereal for kids.
Yeah, that's totally true. What was your favorite movie to work on, though, would you say?
Probably, well, I'll tell you, when the script came in for Braveheart, and it was long, I want to say it was like 160, 180 pages. So it was like really, really long. I remember it was a Tuesday night, and I brought it home, and I didn't know what it was. And we were going to bid doing the visual effects on it. Right. And I started it with full intention of, I'm going to read 30 pages so I get a sense of what the hell it is. And we have a meeting tomorrow on it, and, whatever. I stayed up until 2 a.m. that night. I could not stop reading until the very end. And I was like, wow, this is what screenwriting should be. Because when you do effects movies, let's be honest, when you have that $10-20 million budget just for CG, they're pretty formulaic and stock. It's like, this is where, Tony Stark says the thing and he winks at the camera, and then everyone says the thing and the bad guy is frustrated. They're all kind of like, the next 5 beats of this movie will be these 5 beats because they always happen in this order in this way, and then there's going to be visual effects, right? Yeah. But man, I remember reading Braveheart and I was like, I would work on this for free.
Yeah.
And we got lucky. We, met that whole crew at Icon at the moment when they needed someone like us. And I was very proud. It's a movie. It's about something. It's a movie about how much will you sacrifice for what you believe is good for your people. And that's fucking cool.
Yeah. That's a cool movie. That's like the hold.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that movie. That's a really great movie. And so my final question to you would be, if you had a theme song for your life, what would that be?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a fantastic question. I have no stock answer to that. And I don't know if this is a theme song to my life, but I will tell you, I'm going to give you 2 songs. One is very important to me right now, which is there's a really old song, or really old, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years old, called Feel So High by Desiree, that really reminds me of my wife.
Okay.
And every time I hear that, even if she's traveling, because she works in banking, she's on the road a lot, or I'm traveling, whatever, like I hear that and I'm totally into like, that's how you make me feel. So right now in my life, that's a really good one. I don't know if it's a theme song. And then I'll tell you on a larger, like over my whole life, there's a Sting song called Fragile.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That just talks about like, hey man, like this is how fragile we all are. And like, what do we do to treat other people in such a way that, we hold them up? Like it's very easy to get damaged. And sometimes when you break, it is like glass breaking. Like it's hard to super glue it back together. And what are we doing to be respectful of, life is fragile.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm definitely going to check out both those tracks.
Dude, good question. I had not thought about how to answer that one. That is a fresh answer.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Steven, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to learn more about your journey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Goodbye, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care. Bye. That's a wrap on today's episode of How to Make It in Toronto with Steven Puri. From the big screens of Hollywood to helping remote teams stay focused with Sukha. His journey is a reminder that success starts with clarity and intention. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to subscribe, share a review, and share with someone who needs that extra push. We'll see you next time. And thanks again to Hallelujah It's Clean for sponsoring today's episode. Don't forget, they offer everything from commercial carpet cleaning to house cleaning, so you can finally ditch those chores and enjoy a clean space. Head over to their website and see how Hallelujah It's Clean can help you. Thanks a lot, Toronto. Take it easy.